What's going on, my fellow rock crawlers? Thank you for joining on another episode of RantDean with the Space Dean on Space Dean TV. I'm excited to be back in front of y'all, ready to talk about more things. Before I get started on today's episode, I just want to go back and just the perfectionist in me and wanting to be the best that I can be and continue to grow. I know that in my first episode that I dropped on Thursday, I wasn't particularly clear on the whole situation. So just to recap with J.K. Rowling and Emma Watson, the problem is there's that J.K. Rowling has her feelings and her stance on the trans rights. Some of the actors, including Emma Watson, aka Hermione Granger, have their feelings about trans rights and have obviously thrown, has thrown, a couple of snowballs over at J.K. Rowling's way over the time. So the extension of the olive branch that Emma Watson tried to extend was kind of in poor taste, especially after, everything that's gone on over the last few years and the shunning of J.K. Rowling. So I just wanted to make it just clear on that situation, because I felt like when I was rewatching it and the feedback I got from some of my friends that I wasn't particularly clear on that. So moving forward, I definitely want to try to remember that I articulate at the very least the positions, because like I said, I want this to be more of a conversation instead of me like educating you. So I want you to take what I say and take kind of what's in the comments or whatever, and then if you care about the subject enough to go and look it up. I think the world is too big for any one problem, for the most part, to dominate people's lives, and not everyone's going to care about the same things that much, so it just is what it is. But with that being said, let's get started with the show. All right, my fellow rock crawler. So for today's episode, my main two topics are going to be the new Harry Potter series that's coming out in 2027 and how HBO and the media at large missed another great opportunity. And my second story is going to be about the Stand Your Ground law and how since the murder/death of Trayvon Martin until now, how we're seeing a change in society, and how I really think that we're not paying attention to one trend that should be alarming to us all. Okay, so those are our topics for today, and I will be back after this quick break, I guess, but not really a break because I don't have any sponsors, but you get the point. So for my first topic, y'all, I want to get into the whole Harry Potter series situation, and this isn't really a critique of the series itself, because one, it hasn't come out yet, and two, I'm not trying to poo-poo on something this early in the game, but I just want to bring a little bit of attention to one particular subject. I feel like this is another example in the case of Warner Brothers. This is another example of the big studios getting it wrong again, right? So it's no secret that we live in a world of regurgitation, right? So I firmly believe that what comes around will go back around, whether it's styles or your behaviors or, whatever, right, is going to just come back around. So I do expect us to mimic and copy previous, works of the past, just like in all things, right? Like painting, music, it's nothing is really truly original. It's kind of hard to truly come with original. So that's when something is original, that's what makes it amazing. And one of those original things was Harry Potter, right? So the unique thing about Harry Potter and some other films that brought you along on the journey was it came out at a time to where we were really entering the new age of things, where, it's just like we were more connected, and, films were filming, we were coming out of the 90s, and the craft was really, I know the golden age was probably like the 30s, 40s, 50s, that kind of time. But I really think that the late 90s into the 2000s and mid 2000s, that was like the golden age of just like film for real. Like everything was just, technology was at a point to where obviously there's always going to be improvements on technology, right? But you can only, as far as like, from a cell phone to AI is crazy, right? But it's like, getting to the cell phone itself was crazy. So the fact that everyone was able to, in a way, participate and enjoy Harry and really have that first time sneak away into a far, far land, right? And really be a part of it. It was new for everybody, new for kids, new for adults. I remember my godfather, my mom, when they would take me to go see the new Harry Potter films, they would enjoy it just as much as I did. So definitely that's what makes Harry Potter unique and beautiful. And I think that with this series, what it's doing is it's taking something that's okay, unique, and beautiful, and it's trying to, one, modernize the story so that it adds whatever is popular of the day, instead of trying to just stick to social norms. And again, like, this isn't, a black person being seen, or a Hispanic person being seen, or a white person, or white people dominating the picture and all that. And I know those are talking points, but again, you can't really get around the color of your skin. But of course, messages on how people feel, that is what changes on a daily basis, right? Let's talk about the Emma Watson thing again. Remember, she was once kind of throwing shade at J.K. Rowling, and now she's trying to be cool with her because the tides are turning. We just got to be mindful that, one, you need to have a little bit of conviction as a person in general. So just stand on your hill and die on it if you got to, right? It's always a good thing to make amends and acknowledge your faults and try to, meet whatever that person in the middle, and hopefully I can come to common ground. But for the most part, it's not cool, and it's really not respectable when you kind of just flip-flop like that. So I think that's really what's falling on a lot of these, series and movies nowadays, is that they don't really resonate with the masses because there's nothing really to resonate with. I know The Last of Us season 2, I started watching it when Ellie made the "I'm gonna be a dad" thing, right? Because it's just like, why are y'all so hell-bent on just destroying and eliminating men? And just whatever your answer is, I'm fine with that. I'm just curious, because if it's just like it could really be as simple as like, women been shat on for a long time, which is a fact. Women are angry, which is a fact. And women in these new places of power want to be able to express that, men aren't as great as they think they are, and they're not these dominant characters and whatever. And if that is how you feel, all right, cool. Like, I just want to understand how much more, like I said in my previous, like, how much more, what needs to be destroyed, what needs to happen, right? Why is Luke Skywalker a bumbling idiot when he literally saved the galaxy? Like, why is Indiana Jones a dummy, a lame-o that's just usurped by this random ass chick? Like, I understand the message, but instead of taking what's already done and trying to, shove trying to shove a whole new narrative and a whole new angle into something that's already been established, build something new, right? Like, have Indiana Jones have this, build off of, I know that he had the son, right? But, Shia LaBeouf is gone, but build off of that, build off of anything else. And then you can have this daughter or granddaughter or niece or whatever that's just like the family, and and you can have her own story from there, and you just have Indy as just like the cool grandpa that comes in and helps. Like, that way the audience can build something with the female Indy, right? And I think that's where Harry Potter is at. Instead of trying to recreate Harry Potter and the magic and whatever, you can still capture the kids and the adults. Remember, the adults are the ones with the money, right? So for me as an adult, I'm 31 years old, so it's like, I don't have any kids right now, but God willing, I will one day. But, I know that, if I see, like, knowing how my parents were and just like taking me to do stuff, they're the one, they have to care a little bit. I didn't really know about Harry Potter. I wasn't watching TV like that and checking news articles or like, so someone brought me to the movie theater for Lord of the Rings. Someone brought me to the movie theaters for Van Helsing. Someone brought me for Spider-Man 2. Like, someone brought me for Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl. Like, did I know about it? I guess, but it was the adults that brought me into the theater that really pushed like what my world was. And in terms of Hogwarts, like, I'm thankful that my mom and my godfather, they were excited about that kind of stuff from their own childhood and their own wants and desires to just get away from reality. And I think that primarily in the last few years since COVID, so I'll say 2020 to 2025 now, we've been putting out a lot of content that the adults who have the money are just like, it's so divisive, right? Everything is so, I have to prove my point and how I want it to be, instead of just like building something organic. And you could still have your agenda. You could still have the female character. You could still have the the asshole guy that isn't worth anything, and have the woman that builds yourself up from nothing. So in the case of the Harry Potter series, right, I think that instead of rebuilding Harry Potter and recasting roles that we all care about and having like a black Snape, come on, bro, like, stop it, please. There's no need to have a black Snape, just like there's never a need to have a black 007. Just stop. It's okay. You can have another wizard who has an impact and is just as cold and it's just as tough as Snape, and he be a black dude. Like, you can write that. It's possible. You know, like, that is not an issue. I don't think anyone normal would say, okay, if you give him a great backstory and he's solid and we've never seen him before, okay, he's a black wizard. Fine, right? So anyways, I think what, you know, and this is what I want to get to in this topic, right? I think what Warner Brothers should have done instead of recreating Harry Potter, right? They said 7 seasons, right? I'm about to give them 7 seasons, if not more, right? They have so many wizards in their world that just showed up that they could build off of, right? For instance, and I'm going to go down the list. Right now. These are just a few that I personally plucked that I feel like deserve their own story or their own origin tale that kind of dive into, or, you know, mixing characters or something like that. But for the most part, it's not even thinking about Harry Potter, the actual Harry Potter, but thinking about the world that led up to Harry Potter, right? So let's just go down these wizards and these witches and wizards that are worth just shouting out. You got Barty Crouch Sr. and Jr. You got Lucius Malfoy, Bellatrix Lestrange. You got Professor McGonagall. You have James Potter. Lily Potter, Severus Snape. Let's have a whole season dedicated to that backstory and that love. Oh, wait, you know what? We could also pull in Remus. Wow. Like, right there, that's one large season, that's 2 different ones, like however you want to do the Lupin situation, like, cool. Let's just keep going. You have the Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw. Let's talk about those houses. Or how about let's get a Merlin one? I mean, you can break it down into literally one season could be anthologies, or not even anthologies, but they could be the character builds. You could have one season that's dedicated to the Potter love triangle, like whatever. But of course, right? Like Merlin. Why isn't anyone really, and I don't know if it's a rights thing or whatever, but I feel like Warner Brothers definitely got the bread to throw Merlin into something, you know, like, come on. And last but not least, the Tom Riddle origin story needs to be told in depth. And I know that it was touched on in the Harry Potter movies. I know. But Lord Voldemort, Tom Riddle, that man deserves a lot more, because we got to understand how he brought them all together. I got to know, how did he become that? Like, I want to know, like, Michael Jordan, before he became Jordan, where was he at? Oh, he was at UNC with the Tar Heels. Oh, he was going up against the Celtics and the Pistons. We're not just talking about 91. I'm talking about 88, 89, 87. So it's just stuff like that I think if people took a step back, believed in this concept that I want to coin here now called wholesome capitalism, and instead of just thinking primarily about the bottom line and the dollar, they think of how can we maximize the dollar and the consumer response, right? Instead of just maximize dollar. Let's maximize the dollar and the consumer response. Because I firmly believe that, oh, I forgot, Moody, my man Mad Eye Moody. Like, come on, bro. Like, an origin story. I'm gonna just say this, because I can get stuck here all day. I think that whoever got the rights to Harry Potter needs to, one, make a formal apology to J.K. Rowling. And 2, they need to do some self-reflection and take accountability on the biggest miss that they've had. Because they could have given us the love triangle, the romance. They could have given us the dark arts, the dark world, excuse me, with Snape, Tom Riddle, Lupin, Sirius Black. You know, they could have given us the brotherly adventure with Sirius and James Potter. They could have given us the crash out of Lily and James going through the, like, they could have given us that high school romance type situation with Lily and James. Like, you know, so there are so many factors going on that is just like, bro, how can y'all just miss that one? I mean, at the very least, like, y'all could have just filmed that and then said, okay, let's see how it tests, and then, okay, we could do this, like, the series. I don't care what no one says, man. I don't care about no young Harry. I don't care about y'all trying to milk the books. That's stupid. That's really lame, and it's lazy, and I'm tired of people with money being lazy. Because the one thing I'm gonna say too is, man, I'm not one that considers myself a hater. My concept is I'm happily envious of people, because it's like, you're human, so you're gonna feel jealousy, you're gonna feel envy. But I'm like, I'd be happy for other people, because me, I'm just like, shit, I want a little bit of that too. So I don't want no one to get blocked, because I don't want to get blocked. That just sucks. But I just feel like this just has to be said. We gotta stop doing stuff for the sake of simply getting a check. I'm not saying not to go get the check. I don't want a check. That's why I'm here right now. But all I'm saying is we just gotta be mindful. Like, why are we continuously trying to actively destroy what is not even broken? Like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Unfortunately, our media landscape, our political landscape, our societal landscape is broken. Why? Because there are people with influence and people in power and people with the money that simply just love caring about what somebody else is doing. All right, y'all. So for my flash topic today, I only really have one. I really only have one, because I want to keep this quick, and I feel like I kind of went on with the whole Harry Potter series thing. But I want to talk about nepotism, and not for the reason why most people bring it up in a negative way, I guess, or to put people down. But I feel like we're at a point to where nepotism is really starting to balance itself out. Like, and I'd say this, and I guess in the sense of not the day-to-day stuff, like, you know, if my dad is a surgeon, he can help me get into this office, or if my dad's a lawyer, he can, that kind of stuff for sure. The day-to-day nepotism is still alive and well and will continue to be a pain in the ass. But I'm talking about like the actors and athletes and all that kind of stuff. So at a later time, I'll dive deeper into this, because I do think it's an interesting topic, right? Because you have the notion of, like, you have all the wants and needs, and you have, you know, all the extracurriculars and all the advancements and all this kind of stuff that other people don't. I can't think of the word that I'm trying to say. I'm saying every other word except the word I need to say, but whatever. The point is, you're ahead of other people, right? So, but as I'm looking around the landscape, and this is one of the good things that came out of social media, and we need to be, and this is another thing to be mindful of, and I'm going to shout out right here. Because we have social media and we are a part of everyone's lives all the time now, things like money, it matters, but it's not as impressive. The fact that it's just like, you know, if someone has money, but then it's like, but you're lame, bro. So the whole mystique, that's all gone, right? Oops. The whole mystique of things is gone, right? You got bread, you got bread. Like, that's it. Like, at this point, you know, if you got connections, you got connections. Like, there's nothing to really hide anymore. So in a way, it's kind of boring now. Like, now it is kind of just like, oh, you got a fat butt, girl. Oh, you got some nice titties. Oh, you're done. Your body's done up. Okay, well, like, not even can you cook, but are you cool? in the sense of, will we be cool? Because what's cool to you may not be cool to me. And, look, everyone got their person. I'm just saying. So bringing it back, the reason why I wanted to talk about this was because Texas just played Florida, right? And Archie Manning's been going through so much stuff. And I think it's unfair, right? Because he's a Manning boy. His uncles are Eli and Peyton, 4 Super Bowl rings in that family, plus Archie the dad. And, so a lot's been made up of the young man. And they just got dog walked, right? And people saying he sucks and he's trash and he's this and that. And that's what comes with the territory for show. But this reminds me of like Marcus Jordan, and how he kind of flamed out, and thinking about even Bronny James now, when it's like, I'm gonna just say this: nepotism can only get you so far. And I feel like, especially nowadays, nepotism can probably really be more of a detriment to someone than actually like a positive in certain aspects, right? Like certain things. And especially with the mindset of like Shedeur Sanders, right? Like, I don't know that boy, and I got nothing but respect, and I hope that he's going to be okay and he gets his chance. But I'm also just like, your grind is never going to be the same grind as your dad. It's just not going to be that, because you grew up in a different environment. Your talents aren't going to be the same as your dad's, because you're not forced to push through being hungry, thinking about your family, how you're going to provide, trying to make everything shake. Like, Deion Sanders at one point was broke. Prime time was not prime, but that hunger. And I think for a lot of people, including myself, you either never get that hunger, or it takes you a long time to get that hunger, because it's the illusion of everything's going to be okay. And I'm not saying this to say any of the people that I shouted out that they just think shit is sweet. I'm not saying that. I just think it's important to just know that nepotism and expectations really have been more of a detriment, or starting to become more of a detriment than, I guess, a positive, the way that we once saw being the son or daughter of someone. Now, acting, a little bit different, but if your cheeks on the screen, your cheeks on the screen. Like, it just is what it is. Like with the Skarsgård family, right? Papa Skarsgård is him, and then as you go down, the talent goes with it. So I'm gonna leave it that there. All right, let's get on to our final topic. So recently I was listening to the Wall Street Journal, right? We're doing a podcast. Let me actually get my phone out now so I can accurately get it. I just want to make sure I get the name. All right, so the Wall Street Journal was doing a 4-part episode called Camp Swamp Road, right? And it's talking about this unfortunate accident that took place back in 2023 in North Carolina. Now, this case, when I first heard it, and I found out because of a podcast, so shout out podcasts, right? But when I first was listening to it, it immediately reminded me of February 26, 2012, when Trayvon Martin was murdered, right? That whole stand your ground thing. And I was raised in the DMV, that's DC, Maryland, Virginia, for those who don't know. So I'm an East Coast boy. The South to me is like, it's just this, when I do think of the South, I think of, okay, they be doing some different shit down there. It just is what it is, just like everywhere else, right? But that always stuck out with me. It was like, man, like, you can just smoke anyone for real if you feel threatened, like, and that's what was being said with the Trayvon case. So fast forward from February of 2012 to now October 2025, it's 13 years later. And now, well, this event took place in 2023, so I guess at that time I would say 11 years later, but just bear with me in 2025 because this is still happening. We have now we have now as a people, as a nation, have made it okay to smoke each other because of how we feel, right? Now I'll say this. I make fun of a lot of the progressive left because of how they feel, right? And I feel like the feelings of things is a problem, and why we're here today for a lot of things, right? Because of how people feel. But how you feel is a human thing, and that goes across the aisles, that goes across races, that goes across cultures, that goes across everything. Like, how you feel is so biased and so fluke that you can literally tell somebody 2 + 2 = 4, and they could still be like, yeah, but I feel like that 4 just isn't really like a 4, is it? So because people at their core are just assholes, right? Or just all assholes. So because I firmly believe that at our core we're all just assholes, and we all just individually try every day to be better people, and some fall short, some exceed that, some are just average. That's just the way the game goes. The stand your ground thing to me is like, I think that it gives punks and sissy boys the opportunity to act like men when they are in fact resorting to acting like children and don't have the processing skills, right? Now again, I think stand your ground is, if someone comes into your crib, smoke them. If someone's on you, smoke them. If someone's doing whatever, smoke them. But more and more, like, and I'm telling you cases that were 11 years apart. You had a dude follow another dude thinking that he was in the right, and then when he got scared, he shot him. And it's like, bro, why are you following this person? And the police are like, yo, don't follow that man, right? That's Trayvon Martin. That's what it is. You have years later, and that was white on black. Now you have white men smoking other white men. That's the thing. When white men are now just pulling the shit on other white men, we have a problem in America. Yes, we do. Let's just keep it a buck. And I'm just saying this. If this dude was able to, let me just give you all the details of it, right? Let me just give you all the details, because I promise you, this stand your ground, I'm not against the Second Amendment rights at all. I'm with that. This ain't about owning guns or not. This is about, can you follow someone for like 9 miles and then be like, I'm scared of them, and then shoot them and get off, right? And that's what happened with this case back in 2023 that I'm about to talk about. All right, so for some details of the case, right? Scott Spivey, the one who was murdered, 33, died in the early evening of September 9th, 2023, inside his truck on a rural road after he left North Myrtle Beach, traveling toward his Tabor City, North Carolina home. North Myrtle Beach businessman Weldon Boyd and his friend Bradley Williams told Horry County police officers they shot Spivey after he displayed a handgun in a threatening manner and ran Boyd's truck off the road on South Carolina Highway 9. The Office of South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson said the state's stand your ground law applied in the shooting case of Scott Spivey. All right. So this is where it's foul. Right? And I advise everyone to go listen to the Wall Street Journal and the podcast specifically, these 4 episodes talking about this. When you dig up the details, you find out that these 2 dudes, Weldon Boyd and his man's, Bradley Williams, they were chasing this dude, right? Now, Boyd was on the phone with the police. He let them know. He did all that kind of stuff, like you should. But me personally, I'm one of those people that, unless it's literally happening right in front of me, once I let the police know, I'm going to make sure that I maintain a safe distance, because I have to make sure that I am safe, right? Like, I think, when the masks drop in the plane, they tell you put yours on first before your kids, because you got to breathe oxygen before you can help anybody, right? So I'm sitting here and I'm like, man, like, they followed this man 8-9 miles. And then, man, like, Weldon Boyd is friends with some police officers. And then, man, you got these tapes of Weldon Boyd saying he had a thrill. And if I misquote, please forgive me. But then again, what I'm saying is not wrong. I mean, it's literally there. Like, look it up. It's become a a thing, a national thing, because it's like, how can you say I stood my ground when I followed someone? Now, I got to give a big shout out to Jennifer Spivey Foley. That is Scott's sister. And she's the one that really was like, hey, I found these tapes. I found this and that. And then the same dude who's trying to run for governor is trying to, no, yeah, well, if we get new evidence. And it's just like, that letter of the law shit is really so fluke. Because the letter of the law is literally failing a family before our eyes. And to really add an extra layer, it's failing a white family. See, we spend a lot of time on racism and black this and black that and all brown and all. But here we have a situation of two white Americans, one being a business owner with money and ties in the community, really knowing some powerful and influential people, him able to literally not even have the case reopened. That much power. When you have tapes, when you have people being like, hey man, when you have the public pressure, when you have a man that had control of everything that's literally over there running for governor and he's like, nah, bruh, we're good. See, now I could cheat and I could say if that was a black man, they'd have. I do think that if that was a black man, they would have. I think if Boyd was a poor man, they would have. I think if Boyd was an immigrant, they would have. But he wasn't that. He's a rich white dude that had some police friends, that was able to keep things in the dark, that was able to stonewall the Spivey family, that was able to have the same information tucked away in their storage and lockers, and it took Jennifer uncovering it. This random girl, these big police officers, these big brains, and their guns, and their chests. Oh, the law. And here we have the law failing an American family. There are a lot of things that need to change in this country. Too many to really just rattle off, and it's too tiring for that. But one thing that I am a big advocate for is if we're not going to get rid of the guns, which I'm not, again, my thing is, if my neighbor's gonna have guns, I gotta have some guns. Listen, now that's where I'm real on shit. I'm not gonna have I'm not gonna have the world end and I'm out here with a baseball bat. Like, hey, no, can't go like that. But seriously though, if we're gonna live in a world with guns and everyone says that we're responsible and, you know, it's about this and that. And listen, my cousin was in the Air Force. He can literally give me any excuse on why he has to have a gun. Any scenario. The bull could be like, yo, what if you're in a Fast and Furious movie and you need a gun? Like, he would literally spit that out to me. So I learned a long time ago, I'm not gonna have a debate with a man about the necessity of having a lot of guns. You know what I'm saying? Like, or just being a gun-toting American. I don't waste my time with that. But what I do strive for is, okay, if we're going to say it's mental health for people shooting up the schools, can we invest in mental health? Right? Like, can we at least seem to do that? Can we make it a federal thing that, yo, like, let's do some studies. Let's see how we can, you know, like, not be invasive on the American citizen, but also figure out a way to offset some of this stuff, you know. Again, that's not my job to figure out. I do think, though, that for those states that have the stand your ground law, which I think is like, what, 18, 19, 20 of them? Somewhere around there. Y'all need to repeal them bitches immediately. Because what are we talking about? Like, what are we talking about? I think you're giving people the license to shoot other people. This isn't even about a white person shooting a black person. This is about a white person shooting another white person. If we're now getting to this point to where it's like, We're not even going to look at something that we know is crooked and we're going to use the letter of the law to get around it. We're legalizing murder. We are. We're legalizing murder. So that's my piece. I'm going to leave that there. Thank you, rock crawlers. I appreciate y'all. Remember, check your oxygen and stay froggy.